Hello, and welcome to this presentation on academic branding and impact, building your identity and telling your story. My name is Capria Johnson, and I am the Associate Vice Provost for Faculty Development and Recognition at The Ohio State University. Here with me today is my colleague, Travis Scheffler, the Director of Faculty Honorifics in the Office of Faculty Affairs. Our question for you today is, do you want to be able to define, build, and manage your professional identity in academia and to craft compelling impact statements? If so, this session will help you understand branding concepts, clarify your unique value, and implement strategies to enhance your visibility, as well as to teach you how to write persuasive impact statements that demonstrate the significance of your work for awards, promotions, and broader influence. You may be asking yourself, why does academic branding matter? Well, there are several reasons. First, with respect to professional identity, your brand defines who you are as a scholar. It communicates your unique approach and perspective. Second, it helps to bring recognition to your expertise as a scholar. A clear brand helps others understand your knowledge areas and your contributions become more visible. Third, academic branding serves as a magnet for opportunity. Strong branding attracts grants, speaking invitations, and collaborations. And each one of these steps helps to advance your career trajectory. Finally, strong branding helps to build your influence in the field. Consistent branding increases your impact in your discipline, where your voice gains greater authority and reach. Expertise, values, voice, and impact. Your academic brand combines these four essential elements. Together, they tell the story of who you are as a scholar and why your work matters. We start with your expertise, your scholarship, your scientific work, your artistic work. Then we look at how such expertise is guided by your values and your guiding principles, as well as how your communication of your expertise and your values as they relate to your scholarship and work is impacted greatly by your voice or your communication style. And finally, that all leads to the end game, the impact, or who your scholarship benefits and how it is benefiting them. On this slide, I want to share how strong academic brands can actually look in practice. There are three common patterns we see in highly recognized faculty: people who show up in major awards, academies, or national conversations. You do not have to fit perfectly into one of these boxes, but noticing which one feels closest to you can help you sharpen your story, your CV, and your nominations. The first example is the interdisciplinary innovator, someone known for making groundbreaking connections across fields. They aren't just dabbling in multiple disciplines, they are creating new knowledge, methods, or domains at the intersection. What this looks like. This might be a scholar who bridges, for example, engineering and medicine, or the arts and computer science, public health and data science. Their brand is, if you want to understand X at the intersection of A and B, this is the person you call. They often lead or help create centers cross-college initiatives, or multi-institutional teams. Why is this brand powerful? Interdisciplinary innovators often attract major grants, big collaborative projects, and attention from national academies because their work solves complex real-world problems. Award committees love a coherent story, right? Something like they fundamentally changed how two fields talk to each other. If you see yourself here, ask, what are the 2 or 3 fields I consistently connect? How can I make that intersection clearer in my bio, my website, and my nomination materials? This is just an example of a strong brand. You can probably think about someone who fits the interdisciplinary innovator brand. Be thinking about how you connect your brand to who you are in the work that you do. Another example might be the community engaged scholar, someone whose work is deeply rooted in public scholarship and community partnership. Their research doesn't just live in journals, it's tied to local or regional needs, often co-created with communities. What does this look like? They might partner with schools, nonprofits, industry, tribal nations, neighborhoods, or local governments. Their projects often result in both peer-reviewed scholarship and tangible community outcomes like improved health, educational outcomes, environmental quality, or economic opportunity. They're the kind of scholar where communities say, we trust them, they show up, they listen. This brand connects strongly with awards that recognize public impact, outreach, equity work, and broader impacts. When the story is told well, committees see a scholar who has advanced theory and produces measurable change on the ground. It also positions them as a visible ambassador for the institution, something many honorific committees now value. If you see yourself in this space, ask, how am I documenting my impact on communities? Are those partnerships and outcomes clearly visible in my materials, or are they only known informally? The third example is the policy influencer, a scholar whose research shapes policy decisions and public debates. They excel at translating complex evidence into clear, actionable recommendations. What does this look like? They might serve on advisory panels, write white papers, testify before legislative bodies, or contribute to national and international guidelines. Their work shows up in policy briefs, government reports, professional association guidelines, and sometimes in major media. Their brand sounds like this. If you want evidence-based guidance on this policy question, this is the expert. Why is this brand powerful? Well, policy influencers are increasingly visible in prestigious awards and academies because they demonstrate that research has concrete impact on systems and societies. Committees look for evidence that a scholar's work has shaped laws, regulations, standards, or funding priorities. A well-defined policy brand helps external reviewers quickly see this person has changed how decisions are made. If this resonates with you, ask, where has my work informed policy or guidelines, even informally? Am I capturing that in a way that nominations and award committees can see and verify? These are 3 examples. It's not a checklist. These are illustrations of strong, memorable academic brands. Many of you will find that you blend elements of 2 or even all 3. What matters is that your story is coherent, that others can quickly describe who you are and why your work matters. On the next slide, we'll talk about how you can start managing your brand and your reputation. Effective reputation management requires consistency across multiple channels. The goal isn't to be everywhere, it's to be intentional. Focus on quality over quantity to build meaningful, durable visibility. First, publications are one of the strongest signals of expertise, but not all journals communicate the same type of reputation. Strategic placement, meaning publishing in the journals that matter the most in your field, helps award committees and external reviewers instantly understand your standing. This doesn't mean always mean publishing more. It means publishing where your peers look for leadership and innovation. Next, awards, whether disciplinary, interdisciplinary, early career, or lifetime. They serve as external validation. They signal to committees that your field has already judged your work to be influential. One well-chosen award can do more for your reputation than a dozen lower impact activities. Think of recognition as both a milestone and a reputation amplifier. Meanwhile, engagement shows that your scholarship resonates beyond your discipline. This includes community partners, public talks, policy briefings, workshops, co-created research projects, pretty much anything that demonstrates real-world relevance. For many, honorifics, especially those with civic or societal emphasis, have public facing as a part of the evaluation criteria. The key is documenting it, not assuming that committees will know it's happening. Fourth, media presence. Expert quotes, op-eds, podcasts position you as a trusted authority. They also make your work more accessible to policymakers, funders, and the public. The goal isn't to become a media personality, it's to ensure your research is visible in reputable outlets where it can influence conversations. Even a small number of well-chosen media engagements can significantly strengthen a nomination packet. Finally, invited talks, keynote addresses, panel leadership, and conference participation all signal professional respect. These platforms help you build the relationships that often lead to strong external letters, which are critical for major honors. Think about conferences not only as dissemination venues, but as visibility accelerators and networking opportunities that support a long-term recognition strategy. When faculty align these 5 areas, publications, recognition, engagement, media, and conferences, their reputation becomes clear, coherent, and easy for others to describe. Reputation isn't something that just happens. It's something we can cultivate with intention. There are several tools that can help you build and maintain your academic brand. These tools aren't about self-promotion, they're about clarity. They help others quickly understand who you are, what you do, and why your work matters. First, we have ORCID. ORCID is the foundation. It gives you a persistent digital identifier that follows you throughout your career. It reduces confusion, especially if you have a common name, and ensures your publications, grants, data sets, and other outputs are attributed correctly. Most major funders and publishers now require ORCID, so keeping it up to date is an easy win for visibility and accuracy. Next, there is your Google Scholar profile. Google Scholar is one of the first places scholars, reviewers, and nomination committees look to understand your research trajectory and influence. A completed profile helps others easily find your work, track your citations, and recognize your scholarly footprint. This is also a place where consistency matters. Accurate, up-to-date publications reflect a polished academic presence. Meanwhile, a personal website is your digital home base. It's the one place you fully control. It allows you to highlight not just publications, but teaching, creative work, community engagement, policy impact, media features, all the dimensions of your scholarly identity. Award committees often Google nominees. When your website clearly tells your story, it shapes the narrative before they even open the nomination packet. Next, we have your strategic social media. Social media, whether it's LinkedIn, X, or discipline-specific networks, can amplify your voice in ways traditional academic channels don't. It helps you build relationships with scholars, practitioners, organizations outside of your immediate circle. The key word here is strategic. You don't need to post constantly. Even thoughtful engagement a few times a month can increase visibility and demonstrate leadership in your field. Finally, we have impact statements. Impact statements are becoming essential, especially in awards, promotions, and academy nominations. A good impact statement translates your work into a clear narrative of influence. What problem do you solve? Who benefits? What has changed because of your contributions? This is the tool that ties everything together. It helps others advocate for you because you've already articulated the story they need to tell. None of these tools are heavy lifts on their own, but together they create a coherent, discoverable academic presence, one that supports nominations, collaborations, media opportunities, and leadership roles. In a minute, we will talk more about impact statements and what makes a good impact statement. But before we get to that, I want to briefly touch upon some common mistakes to look out for when it comes to branding. As we think about building a strong academic brand, it's just as important to understand the common missteps that can weaken or blur your professional identity. These mistakes are extremely common across higher ed, and they're usually easy to fix once we are aware of them. The first mistake is inconsistent messaging, presenting very different versions of yourself across platforms. For example, your website may emphasize one area of your expertise, while your Google Scholar profile, LinkedIn presence, or departmental bio emphasizes something entirely different. This creates confusion for committees, collaborators, and media who are trying to quickly understand your expertise. The goal isn't to make every platform identical, it's to have clear, stable themes that carry across all contexts. The second mistake is overextending your focus, claiming too many expertise areas. A broad range of interests is great, but when everything is emphasized equally, nothing stands out. Award committees in particular need to grasp your core contributions within seconds. Think depth before breadth. Once you've established a strong foundation in one or two areas, then other dimensions of your work can build outward from there. Another common issue is letting your profiles go stale. An outdated website, empty orchid, inaccurate Google Scholar profile, LinkedIn profile that's not updated. The message that your professional presence isn't being actively cared for is not a good message. This can unintentionally undermine credibility, even if your scholarship is excellent. A simple quarterly check-in, 15 minutes every few months, can keep your profiles aligned and accurate. Consistency signals professionalism, and it gives nominators what they need when they're building your recognition case. Last but not least, improper self-promotion. This can take two forms: being overly self-promotional or being too hesitant to share accomplishments. Aggressive or constant self-marketing tends to backfire. It can read as inauthentic or competitive rather than collaborative. On the other hand, never sharing your achievements makes it harder for your colleagues to nominate you for awards or highlight your work. The healthiest approach is balance, sharing meaningful achievements while also amplifying others' successes. This builds a supportive, credible presence. Avoiding these pitfalls helps your academic brand become clearer, more coherent, and more compelling to the audiences that matter.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Travis Scheffler, and I'm the Director of Faculty Honorifics at Ohio State. Today, I'll be talking with you specifically about impact statements. When we talk about impact statements, it's important to start with what they aren't. An impact statement is not just a repackaged version of your CV, whereas a summary of accomplishments tells us what you've done. An impact statement tells us why it matters. A summary of accomplishments is factual and comprehensive: publications, grants, teaching, service, outreach. It's the full landscape of your work. Its purpose is simply to give a broad snapshot of your activities. It's descriptive, not interpretive. It answers the question, what did you do? In contrast, an impact statement is a narrative reflection on the significance of your work. It synthesizes, not lists, your contributions and highlights the influence you've had on your field, your students, your institution, communities, or society. It answers the higher level question, why does this work matter? Impact statements help awards committees see the real contribution behind the activities listed on your CV. So as we move forward in this presentation, keep this distinction in mind. The CV shows activities, the impact statement reveals meaning. Now let's look more closely at what actually goes into each type of document. With the summary of accomplishments, this is where the traditional academic categories live, like publications, grants, teaching responsibilities, student mentoring, committees, presentations, and awards. It's comprehensive, essentially all the major things you've done. Again, the emphasis is on listing the work. An impact statement, on the other hand, includes evidence of how your work has influenced people, ideas, or systems. This may include policy influence, changes in practice, new scholarship generated, or contributions to public understanding. It can also capture student outcomes, mentoring successes, or community partnerships, things that don't always show up well on a CV. You can use these metrics, or you can use metrics when they help: citations, downloads, adoption rates, media coverage, but the numbers support the narrative. They're not the narrative themselves. The key difference between the two, again, a summary shows activity, an impact statement shows influence. Finally, let's talk about tone, how these documents sound when you read them. A summary of accomplishments is descriptive and often chronological. It tends to follow CV categories: research, teaching, service, outreach. In many ways, it's your CV in paragraph form: neutral, organized, comprehensive. Meanwhile, an impact statement is more reflective and persuasive. The tone is confident but grounded, with an emphasis on meaning. You're making a case for how your work has mattered, why it has changed something, solved something, informed something, or created something new. It's sometimes more personal because it ties together your motivation, your contributions, and your unique value. If the summary is the what, the impact statement is your so what essay, the story that helps committees understand why you are deserving of recognition. Together, these differences explain why impact statements are becoming essential in award nominations, promotion dossiers, and leadership applications. They allow others to advocate for you in a way that a CV simply can't. Now that we've explored what an impact statement is, I want to share a simple framework faculty can use to build one. This is a structure we see reflected across many major awards, Academy nominations, and promotion dossiers. It's a four-part arc: promotion, response, results, impact. And it works for research, teaching, outreach, policy work, really any area of academic contribution. First is the problem. What challenge or need were you addressing? Start by naming the problem or question that our work tackles. This should be clear, concise, and jargon-free. Committees often come from outside your discipline. If they can't immediately understand the importance of the problem, they won't fully grasp the significance of your contribution. Think of this section as setting the stage. What was at stake? Why did this matter? Second is the response. What did you do about it? Describe how you responded to the issue. This is where you highlight your unique approach, innovation, or methodology. You're not listing every activity. You're selecting the key actions or insights that demonstrate leadership and creativity. The goal is to make it clear what you brought to the problem that others hadn't or couldn't. Third are the results. What happened because of your efforts? Identify the immediate outcomes of your work. This is where evidence becomes important. Use numbers when you can: citations, adoption rates, student outcomes, participation metrics, clinical results, performance data. This shows committees that your work didn't just exist, it produced something measurable, observable, and meaningful. Fourth and finally is impact. Why does this work matter in the big picture? Zoom out to the broader significance. Who benefited and how did they benefit? This is the part that awards committees especially care about: changes in policy, improvements in practice, advances in scholarship, new industries, healthier communities, more prepared students. This is where you connect your work to real-world value, where you show how knowledge, behavior, or conditions changed because of your contributions. This four-part framework: problem, response, results, and impact, helps to turn a list of accomplishments into a compelling narrative of influence. It's also flexible. You can use it for research impact, teaching impact, public engagement impact, or leadership impact. On the next few slides, we'll look at how faculty can apply this structure to craft a strong, concise impact statement of their own. Over the next few slides, we're going to take a look at a sample impact statement that is trying to demonstrate excellence in research. With this first slide, I want to set the stage for how we're thinking about our impact statement as it relates to or addresses excellence in research. As we've talked about, when faculty write about their accomplishments, the instinct is often to describe what they did, the specific project, the methods, the papers. But for an impact statement, especially one that will be reviewed by people outside your discipline, the emphasis shifts. We're focusing not on the activity itself, but on why the work matters. So as we walk through the sample today, keep in mind that the goal is to highlight both the broader societal influence and the academic significance of the scholarship. We want the reader to see the big picture, why the work is important. who it affects, and how it has changed understanding, practice, or outcomes in meaningful ways. Now, every strong impact statement begins with a clear articulation of the problem or need that motivated the work. In this sample that we're looking at, we see language that lays out three important pieces. First, the longstanding challenge in the field. Second, the specific barrier that prevents progress. And third, the real-world consequence of that barrier. Effective impact statements make it easy for someone outside the discipline to understand why this problem matters. So a sentence like, for decades, the field of X has struggled to address Y because of limitations in Z, resulting in a measurable negative outcome, does a lot of work. It sets the context, demonstrates urgency, and makes it clear why the research is important, all without requiring deep technical knowledge. After defining the problem, the next step is to explain your response, what you or your team did to address the challenge. Again, the goal here is clarity and accessibility. We want to share enough detail so the reader understands the innovation, but not so much that they get lost in technical specifics. In this example, the statement does three things very well. It identifies the new tool or methodology, it highlights the innovative aspect or unique approach, and it acknowledges collaboration, which many reviewers value. This section should help readers see how your work provides a credible and meaningful answer to the problem you outlined in the previous slide. Once we've described the response, we move into the results, the tangible evidence that the work had an effect. This is where we can point to outcomes such as publication citations, patents, license agreements, awards, software tools, or clinical or field trials. The key is to emphasize results that are 1, measurable. Numbers help reviewers calibrate impact. 2, recognizable. So high impact journals, grants, major partnerships. And 3, relevant to the problem and response you just described. In this sample, the author shows clear academic productivity and real-world traction, peer-reviewed publications, high-impact journals, significant citation counts, technology licensing, and clinical trials. These results help reviewers understand that the research isn't theoretical, it's producing meaningful academic and practical outcomes. Impact. This final section is the heart of an impact statement. It's where we link the work to its broader long-term significance. This is where the narrative becomes forward-looking and expansive. A strong impact section describes how the work changes practice, policy, or understanding. It quantifies real-world benefits when possible. It demonstrates influence on the discipline or on society. And it shows how the work positions future scholarship or advances a field-wide shift. In this sample, the language shows large-scale durable outcomes, improvements to health outcomes or cost efficiency, a shift in diagnostic practice, and influence on emerging generations of researchers. Reviewers evaluating excellence in research expect to see how a faculty member's contributions have a lasting and transformative effect. This section ties everything together and demonstrates why the work ultimately matters. When we sit down to craft an impact statement, in addition to following the problem response results impact framework, there are several best practices that can help strengthen the clarity and persuasiveness of what we write. First, we need to focus on the payoff. Move beyond simply describing your work to explaining what happened because of your work. Lead with your biggest, clearest achievements and explain why they matter. Second, know your audience. Often the audience will not be scholars in your discipline or in your specific area of research or creative practice. Avoid jargon and be prepared to explain your contributions to non-experts. When writing for a cross-disciplinary committee, Write for a broad academic readership. Third, provide specific evidence. Use concrete examples, data, outcomes, and when appropriate, testimonials. Quantifiable metrics are especially effective in demonstrating impact in a concise and compelling way. Fourth, connect to the award criteria. When you are crafting an impact statement for an honorific nomination, explicitly address how your work aligns with the award's criteria. It can even be helpful to incorporate language directly from the award description when appropriate. Fifth, tell a story. Frame your contributions as a narrative showing the before, or the problem or need, and the after, that is, the results or impact. This helps reviewers understand not just what you did, but why it was important. Finally, use strong, direct language. Impact statements should be confident and active, highlighting significance without hedging or downplaying achievements. Committees respond well to clear verbs and straightforward statements of influence. The examples on the next slide I'll be showing demonstrate that tone. On this slide, I've included examples of strong, effective phrasing commonly used in impact statements. The goal here is to demonstrate the tone, clarity, and directness that review committees expect. Notice that each sentence includes an active, confident verb, developed innovative approaches, shaped national guidelines. This type of language signals significance right away. These examples also highlight impact, not just activity. Some statements like transform clinical practice, improved outcomes, or shape national guidelines move beyond describing what someone did to showing why it matters. That shift is essential. You'll also notice that the examples span different kinds of impact: advancing science, changing practice, contributing to policy, developing technologies, or opening entirely new areas of inquiry. This range reflects the reality that impact can take many forms. Your statement should emphasize the types most relevant to your work. Finally, keep in mind that this type of language is meant to inspire you, not to be copied directly. Use it as a model for tone and structure as you craft your own specific evidence-based statements that follow the problem, response, results, impact framework.
Now that Travis has talked about how to write strong impact statements, which often appear in nomination packets, external letters, and your dossier, I want to shift to another essential communication tool, your elevator speech. Whereas impact statements are written and structured, an elevator speech is spoken, quick, and meant to introduce your work clearly and memorably to any audience, whether that's a colleague, a potential collaborator, a dean, or a committee member you meet at an event. Creating an effective elevator speech starts with identifying your core research or artistic endeavor. You should be able to summarize your primary area of investigation in one clear sentence, focusing on the central question or problem that drives your work. This helps listeners immediately understand what you study. Next, highlight your unique approach. What makes your methodology, perspective, or framework distinctive? This is where you differentiate yourself from others in your field, and is often what people remember the most. Then articulate your impact. Describe who benefits from your work and how they benefit. This could be a specific community, a discipline, an industry, a policy area, or a broader societal issue. Whether your impact is theoretical, applied, translational, make sure you connect your work to its real-world implications. Finally, practice delivery. A strong elevator speech should feel natural and conversational, not rehearsed. Aim for about 25 to 30 seconds, long enough to convey substance, but short enough to keep attention. The more you practice saying it out loud, the more comfortable and confident it will sound. Now that we've talked about branding, impact statements, and your elevator speech, this final section pulls everything together into an action plan you can start using right away. The first step is to define your core elements. Take time to write down your areas of expertise, your values, your scholarly voice, and the impact you want to have. These elements should also guide the themes that appear in your impact statements. Think of this as your internal compass. It keeps your messaging consistent across different contexts. Next, target strategic opportunities. Identify 2 or 3 awards or recognitions that align with your goals. This could include pathway awards, society level recognitions, or major honors your department or college has identified as priorities. Look at the criteria and note what you'll need to prepare, whether that's updated materials, letters from collaborators, external letters. Do your research. This step turns branding into action. Third, update your digital presence. Your online profiles, departmental pages, personal websites, Google Scholar, LinkedIn, X are often the first places nominators or committee members will look. Make sure your messaging is consistent, your photo reflects your current professional identity, and your bios match the themes you want to communicate. This is part of creating a recognizable and credible scholarly brand. Finally, craft your narrative. I recommend writing your bio in 3 lengths, 50 words, 100, and 200, and keeping the themes consistent across all versions. These bios should align with your elevator speech and the impact story you want to project. Having these ready makes it much easier to respond to opportunities quickly, whether that's an award nomination, a speaking invitation, or an unexpected request for materials. This action plan gives you a framework to start implementing the branding and impact tools we've discussed today. The goal is to help you build a clear, consistent, and compelling scholarly identity that supports your long-term recognition portfolio. Thank you all for your time, and thank you for the work you do in supporting faculty.